Police have confirmed the correct process was followed in issuing the firearms licence to the accused gunman. But what about the loopholes that existed in the law? Were they obvious, and could closing them have prevented the tragedy? Our Otago Southland reporter Timothy Brown spoke to a Dunedin resident who knows only too well the danger that firearms pose. He filed this report.
Selwyn Shanks has spent more than 30 years in the arms industry, and he knows the tragedy they can bring. He sold firearms to David Gray, who killed 13 people in Aramoana in 1990. He says last Friday's tragedy was sadly predictable. Previous law changes didn't go far enough, and loopholes were never closed.
If you go back to 84, there was a change in the law where individual firearms were not registered, and we probably did miss a beat then. Now we have no record of what's there. So, hindsight is a great master. If we had done that then, it may have stopped this incident. It may not have, because, this guy had an ACAT and he got round the law.
The most glaring issue is how easily an A-category firearm can be transformed into an E-category firearm, one deemed to be a military-style semi-automatic.
They say that they've adapted the firearm, and all they've done is put a big accessory in it. There's no mechanical changes, no engineering to be done. You just buy it and pop it in.
That is, in layman's terms, the firearm Brenton Tarrant bought could be transformed into a high-capacity killing machine simply by ejecting the stock magazine and inserting a higher capacity one. Even worse, magazines were unregulated.
If someone came in wanting to buy a 30-shot 22 round magazine or a 30-shot centrefire round magazine, we would ask to see their E-category licence, because we knew that if that person put it in, it's only going to become an E-cat.
But that was only Mr Shanks' store's policy. Legally, anyone was allowed to buy magazines without a firearms licence, and online the situation is even murkier. Mr Shanks is backing the changes to the law, which include banning all sales of military-style semi-automatic weapons. But he has concerns about whether it's too late, as the country has now had no firearms registry for more than 30 years, and what is out there is, at best, a guess. In a statement today, the police backed the process followed in issuing the accused gunman's firearms licence. He provided 2 referees, who were both interviewed, and a vetting officer visited him at his home in Dunedin and interviewed him. But New Zealand's 240,000 licensed firearms owners are watched over by only about 260 full-time equivalent police staff. Police Association President Chris Cahill says clearly resourcing of arms officers will now have to increase.
I think it's totally fair to say that the priority from police hasn't necessarily been as strong as it should. There's such competition these days for police resources. The role of police has increased so much over the last 30 years. We certainly need to learn firearms, and the administration of it should be a priority given the risk they represent.
He supports the government's plans, but wants to go even further.
There needs to be a full review of the Firearms Act urgently, without a doubt. That was a recommendation of the Thorpe Report back in 1997. We don't want to ever look back with regret again on failing to take reforms that are going to make New Zealand safer. We can't make the mistake that was made back then.
Mr Cahill says 10 years between vetting is also too long and needs to be addressed. The Police Minister, Stuart Nash, says questions about staffing and resourcing are matters for the Police Commissioner. The licensing system will form part of the next phase of reform. In Dunedin, for Checkpoint, Timothy Brown.